So Meg, let's talk about when we talked earlier. You had some learnings around, the BDR outbound strategy, and kind of the results that you were seeing there versus, the inbound, having relevant content and SEO aligned, and the leads that you were creating there. Is there some learnings there that you have, or some anecdotes you can share?
Definitely. Like I said, it was, this kind of assumption that we were going to have this outbound team. And, at the end of the day, looking at the data, the results were not good for outbound marketing for this particular audience. And it took one of my mentors outside the company to kind of point it out to me. I was kind of complaining. I was like, we've spent so much time working on this business development program, and it's just not working. And we're not bringing the leads in, and it's just not justifying the cost of this. And he's like, well, what is working? And I showed him all my opportunity data, and everything was coming in from the website. I mean, almost all of our leads were coming in as inbounds, either from the website. Sometimes people will call us still, or email us, but mostly contact us forms on the website. And he looked at me and he was like, well, why don't you double down on all of your inbound and, let's cut the outbound stuff. And it just seemed like such an obvious piece of advice after looking at all the data and kind of going through this process for, 9-12 months. I mean, it was plenty of time to kind of come to some of those conclusions. So,
yeah. So you did this elaborate fishbone analysis, and then it just was a cocktail with a friend that was like, and you were like, oh, yeah, okay.
Like, why are you pulling your hair out of this? It's not working. You tried all this stuff. Let's just, cut bait and try to do what's working, do more of what's working. So, yeah. What's working is, and it has been like this for several years at the company. We have a great, inbound machine, and that comes from the content machine. We really, at the beginning of my time here at SOC, spent a lot of time building content, explaining what we do. I mean, acute care telemedicine is not, something most people understand or know about. So lots of educational content, and then focusing a lot on our kind of weekly blog that we've been producing with all of our different service line chiefs, and talking about the clinical, financial, operational benefits for hospitals to use telemedicine. So all of that content paired with very rigorous SEO, weekly meetings with our SEO expert, and constant, optimizations and enhancements of the website. We have just blown it out of the park in terms of ranking on page 1 for all of our key terms at this point. I mean, it's just been a really fun journey to be on, the success of the website, and getting those searchers onto our website very efficiently. And then they, read our stuff and fill out the form. And what we ended up doing with our business development team, our internal team, we did end up cutting the external team. We couldn't justify, a return on that. But our internal team, we pivoted them over to first inbound. So they were taking all of the inbound phone calls and inquiries and following up and getting a discovery call set with the regional vice president for that territory. So as soon as that discovery call set, that was, opportunity created. I shouldn't say it's easy to track, but our systems were able to very efficiently track that process. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. And I would say they spent about a quarter of their time just handling the inbounds and scheduling those calls. We ended up sticking them on some of that account-based data and the intent data, and doing a lot of research in order to kind of bubble up some of these kind of accounts that we thought were going to have a compelling event soon based on what we were seeing, and helping get those out to the sales team and doing some kind of warming up, getting them into our nurture campaign. So we were able to pivot their roles into, again, what was working and really generating leads for the team.
I love that. I think as marketers, sometimes we get something in our head that we have to check all the boxes, right? Like we have to do outbound. It's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have, traditional BDR teams that are hitting the phones and calling. And it's so fascinating to me that like the learnings are saying otherwise. So why are we hitting our heads against the wall if it's not working, right? That's great advice.
Yeah. So we do not have a BDR team now. We are relying on that, again, that content machine, that website machine, to continue to bring in our leads and get them out to the sales team.
Love it.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah. So in addition to, those tactics in the marketing mix, we know that you've done some unique direct mail campaigns in the past. Maybe you can share a little bit of insight. And I think this may have been in a previous life where Dana was fascinated with the story that you told.
This might have been the story I told her over that margarita and
I'm sure it was. Many margaritas, maybe.
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite pieces favorite campaigns that I've ever done. I was actually with Optum. This was a couple of companies ago. And I was, first of all, I started my career at Optum in direct mail. So I have a thing for direct mail. It's just so satisfying, first of all, to get something in the mail. And just now in this age of everything being digital, sometimes it's just so refreshing to, receive something that's personalized that you can, pick up and hold and read. Anyway, this was, I don't know, probably 15 years ago. The Optum team decided to get into the accountable care business. And that was the time where the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid decided to create they called it the ACO program, Accountable Care Organization. And that was an attempt to manage populations of patients and, reducing costs at the end of the day. So it was really a pairing of both the insurance companies and the providers together to try to manage the care and reduce costs of, a lot of chronic care patients. So as soon as Medicare released their first, I think it was 90 hospitals that were enrolled in this new program, it was a very innovative program. And I think the first folks were not at risk. So meaning they were not going to lose any money over this. Like in later iterations of these ACOs, they were kind of on the line for reducing cost of care, or else they would have to, cover the costs themselves. But the first ones, it was kind of like, hey, let's see if we can do this together. If you fail, it's okay. You won't lose any money. There's no risk on your part. So this is all publicly published data. We took that list of 90 some hospitals, and we mailed them. I can't remember where I saw this idea. I think I was
can't believe you found these.
I might have been in a hotel or something. They had these things called ecosystems, and it's a enclosed glass ball that had, a little gravel at the bottom. Is about halfway filled with water, a little tree branch inside with some algae, and there's little baby shrimp swimming around inside. And it is a self-contained ecosystem. There's air, there's, the plants, there's the animal inside. Anyway, it all just cycles and cycles. And they say that the shrimp can live inside without, this glass ball is, like I said, completely enclosed for 3 years. So what we did was we sent these ecospheres. We had our Optum logo etched in the glass on the ecosphere, and we had them shipped to these 90 hospital CEOs who were the first Medicare accountable care organizations. And we were talking about the healthcare ecosystem. So that was kind of the play on, the ecosphere and the healthcare ecosystem, and making a sustainable ecosystem where it was affordable and patients were getting the high quality care that they needed, and hospitals were able to stay viable. So it was great. very unique, but there was also some challenges. And this is where I'm sure some of the humor comes in. When I got the first samples, I remember, it comes in a box and it says perishable, you have to open it. And I remember talking to the folks and I was like, so what happens if you don't open it right away? It's not like, a piece of, chicken or something like that goes bad and grows mold. Like what happens? They're like, well, if the shrimp don't have sunlight within, 2 days of, the box arriving, they're going to die. So it was kind of a last minute add-on to the campaign. Not only were we shipping these cool boxes out, but we had to have a whole pre-campaign calling to the hospital CEO. And most of the time they have an executive admin. They're not answering the phones themselves, and telling them, hey, there's a package coming for, hospital CEO. It needs to be opened right away. And of course, the next question was, well, what's inside it? And then we didn't want to give up the surprise. We're like, well, it's a surprise. And they were like, no, you need to tell us what's inside it. Like, this is a little creepy here. So a lot of the campaign actually revolved around us getting a hold of executive admins and kind of building the relationship with them. And it actually worked to our advantage at the end of the day, because they were excited about it. They were like, what's in the box? And then when they got the box, they were like, oh, this is that box that person, called and told me about. I want to check this out, because most people have never even seen one of these things before. So they would get the ecosphere out, it's like the size of an 8-ball, and put it on their CEO's desk. So when he did arrive the next day or the next week, the ecosphere was waiting for him.
I love that. And what a great strategy to penetrate the gatekeepers, right?
Yes,
right.
Right.
Because the admins are the ones that, decide what calls come in and what packages are delivered. So I love that.
And we were able to kill it with the follow-up meeting scheduled after this. We had already chatted with the EA. And she's like, absolutely, let me get you on his calendar next week.
I love it.
Yeah,
Meg, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And we talked to Meg too. People aren't going to throw them away, right? You kind of feel bad throwing away something that's living.
It's for 3 years.
So, they're thinking of Optum on their desk every day. Like, I'd feel guilty. I'd be like, oh, I can't throw that away.
Can I tell you, the sample that I got myself, I had those shrimp for 5 years. They were alive for 5 years. I'm like, when are these things going to die? Because it does get a little funky after a couple years. It's not as pretty as when you first
It's like the goldfish that doesn't die, that's like living for 10 years at the fair. Like, why won't it die?
We actually had a couple extras of these. I can't remember. We probably had a couple hundred of them produced just, to take advantage of volume discounts. And so we had another 100 of them sitting in the warehouse, and they would fill them up and seal them before they would ship them out. We had a handful of them sent to a trade show once, and we put them on our trade show table and sure enough, people walking by would be like, what is that? And they would come over and stare at them and ask us what it was. So it ended up being a great kind of thing to have in the trade show booth. But the only problem is a bunch of people thought they were snow globes, and we definitely had a couple people come up and shake them because all of the white gravel at the bottom. I was like, no, don't shake it.
Don't shake the
shrimp in there.
Oh my gosh. I still think though that's one of the most creative direct mail pieces. I think that's why I remembered it, Meg, because I was like, that was probably one of the most creative things I've ever heard.
Very creative.
It was a really fun project to work on. And it's just so funny. There's just in your daily life, you see this cool stuff all the time, right? And I'm sure I can't remember exactly where I saw one of those in my daily life, but it was
right.
That's so cool and so unique. Yeah. I wonder if we could ship those. But it is. There's things all around us, that give us creative inspiration. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of direct mail, especially right now. We're definitely getting back into more direct mail in our account-based marketing programs.
I definitely think direct mail has made a huge comeback. And I know there's a lot of providers out there that help make it easier, but just even aside from it, I think, we actually have a meeting later today with a company who specializes in sustainable direct mail, which I think is so important these days with all the conversation around sustainability and, and people not wanting to get trinkets that, just get tossed in the dump and add more plastic, and being creative with that too. So I just think there's a whole new market for it. So I agree with you.
Me too.
Yeah.